Let's call the meeting to order. Today is Wednesday, November 13th, 2024. It's 10:01 a.m. and this is the meeting of the Nevada Commission on Ethics. Let's call the roll. Chair Scherer here. Vice Chair Wallen.
Here.
Commissioner Langton.
Present.
Commissioner Lowry. Don't see her on.
She's excused.
Okay, is excused. Commissioner Moran.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning.
Morning. Commissioner Olson.
Here.
Commissioner Reynolds. Here. And Commissioner Yan.
Here.
All right, thank you. And the staff, we have Executive Director Armstrong. Here. Commission Counsel Bassett.
Here.
Outreach and Education Officer Harvey.
Here.
Investigator Terry. Is excused. Senior Legal Researcher Hazlett.
Here.
And Executive Assistant Pedroza.
Here.
Thank you. Let's please join me in the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag
of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Our first item on the agenda is public comment. First of all, let me ask Executive Assistant Pedroza, has this meeting been properly noticed and published in accordance with the open meeting law?
It has, yes.
And then let's turn to public comment. This item's on the agenda. No comment by any member of the public. No action may be taken on this item, and public comment is limited to 3 minutes. Do you have anyone who'd like to make public comment? Mr. Church? Please
Good
go ahead.
morning. Good morning, everyone. I'll try to be brief. I don't think I'll need 3 minutes. Just the one issue, and I think I brought it up before. It's come to my attention that various elected officials receive health care as a benefit of their employment. Then they vote on that health care. Often they get whatever the employees get, and they vote on those labor contracts, which then benefit themselves as well. I have never heard anybody do a 281A disclosure to tell everybody that they benefit from it, let alone recuse themselves. And I don't see how you could recuse yourself, because then nobody would be voting on it. So it's a real dilemma that I hope you address, but it's a statewide issue. School boards, county, city, councils, et cetera, et cetera. So it's just an issue that I think needs to be addressed. And so I hope you do that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who'd like to make public comment? We received any public comment by email?
We have not.
Seeing none, we'll move on to the next item. Item number 3 is approval of the minutes of the October 16, 2024 commission meeting. You've all received the minutes in your materials. Anyone have any changes to the minutes as presented? Seeing none, do we have a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as read.
Motion by Vice Chair Wallen. Do we have a second?
I'll second the motion.
A second by Commissioner Reynolds. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes.
I abstained because I was absent.
Thank you, Commissioner Langton. Please show Commissioner Langton is abstaining since he was not present at the last meeting, and otherwise passes unanimously. Brings us to item number 4, discussion and approval of commission proclamation honoring Commissioner Thorin Towler's years of service to the commission. We have someone, do we want to read the language of the proclamation into the record?
Yes, please.
Someone have that handy?
I do.
If you read that into the record, please.
Right. Whereas Thorn Teller, Esquire, was appointed to the Nevada Commission on Ethics by the governor and served with great distinction as a valued member from October 2020 to July 24, including 1 year as vice chair after unanimous election by his colleagues. And whereas Thorn received his Bachelor of Science in Technology from Walla Walla College and his Juris Doctorate from Gonzaga University School of Law, And whereas Thorne's service to the state of Nevada includes both private and public employment, Thorne's estimable career in Nevada includes his service as a law clerk for the Fourth Judicial District Court in Elko, litigation associate in the employment law group of Jones Vargas, deputy district attorney for the Carson City District Attorney's Office, deputy attorney general with the Office of the Nevada Attorney General, general counsel for the Nevada Association of Realtors, state of Nevada Labor Commissioner, private practice with the Allison McKinsey Law Firm, and the chief executive officer of the Nevada Association of Employers, wherein his dedication to the law, state of Nevada, its public and its workforce was evident. And whereas Thorne served 1 4-year term on the commission during a monumentally transformative period wherein the commission fulfilled its mission to ensure the public's trust in government through increased outreach and education, including statewide training presentations, issuance of detailed confidential advisory opinions, and the development of substantive statutory provisions and procedural regulations to enhance ethical responsibilities of public officers and employees while ensuring fairness and due process of law in commission proceedings. And whereas Thorne's leadership, commitment to inclusion, and passion for proper government accountability promoted the commission's annual priorities in many fiscal, legislative, and judicial forums, and Thorne was particularly instrumental in mediating settlement conferences and personnel matters. And whereas Thorne's community service endeavors are exemplified by his involvement as ambassador for Donate Life, as well as his service as chair of the Employer Associations of American Board of Directors and participation on the Nevada Works Board. And whereas Thorne's lasting imprint on the Nevada Commission on Ethics will showcase his immeasurable contributions, unwavering support of staff and colleagues, integrity and professionalism in mediating, and tenacity for inclusivity and fair practice. And therefore be it resolved that the members and staff of the Nevada Commission on Ethics hereby express their extensive gratitude to the Commissioner Thorne Tyler Esquire for his dedicated service to the state of Nevada and to the Constitution of the United States.
Thank you very much. Any questions or discussion on the proclamation?
Well, I would like to make a few comments
Please.
to be read into the record. I had the pleasure of having Commissioner Tyler be my dad when I was the controller. And we developed a very good working relationship. He was very professional. And I hated to lose him when he became the labor commissioner. And he was always holding himself up to the highest ethical standards. And he never, ever would let those standards be penetrated, I would say. Okay. And he didn't let people try to make him do things if they weren't ethical. And I really appreciate that. His participation on the Ethics Commission was great. He had a great analytical mind. He was always fair. He upheld the ethics law, and we really miss him on the commission. And it was a pleasure to work with.
Thank you. Any other discussion?
Yes,
We need
Chair.
a,
No, you should say
Commissioner Young.
comments about the commission.
Is former Commissioner Tyler present?
No,
He is
he's
not.
not, but
Oh, he wasn't able to make it. I had put him in my little comments later, but I'll just put on the record how much, yes, he is missed. And one thing I appreciated was that he only talked when necessary. But when he did, it was always very meaningful, thoughtful, and in line with upkeeping the commission's mission. So he was a great force on this commission. He's been missed, and I know that he's serving everything that he's doing with the utmost highest quality. So thank you, former Commissioner Tyler.
thank you, Commissioner Young, for your comments.
If I may.
Commissioner Langton, please.
Yeah, this is Michael Langton. I appeared in front of Thorne when he was in labor commissioner, and he was always professional, and I thought he was very ethical, and you know, I had no problems with him as the labor commissioner.
Do we need a vote or do we need a motion to approve the proclamation? Okay.
no.
Any other comments before? No. Great. Thank you all. Brings us to item number 5, discussion and approval of Commission proclamation honoring Commissioner Amanda Yen's years of service to the commission. And I think I can pull this one up and read it. Whereas Amanda Yen Esquire was appointed to the Nevada Commission on Ethics by the Legislative Committee. I think that should be Legislative Commission. We can make that correction. And served with great distinction as a valued member from December 2016 to December 2024. And whereas Amanda received her Bachelor of Arts in International Studies and Theater Arts from Pepperdine University and a Juris Doctorate from the William S. Boyd School of Law, University of Nevada, Las Vegas. And whereas in her private capacity, Amanda is a partner in the law firm of McDonald Toronto, where her extensive legal career focuses on commercial and complex litigation and appellate law. And whereas Amanda served 2 4-year terms on the commission during a time of momentous growth, wherein the commission fulfilled its mission to ensure the public's trust in government through increased outreach and education, including statewide training presentations, issuance of detailed confidential advisory opinions, and the development of substantive statutory provisions and procedural regulations to enhance ethical responsibilities of public officers and employees while ensuring fairness and due process of law and commission proceedings. And whereas Amanda's tremendous legal acumen, commitment to the truth and passion for proper government accountability empowered the commission and was instrumental in appropriately steering litigation, resolving matters through considerate and persuasive mediation, and the issuance of thoughtful, well-reasoned opinions. And whereas Amanda's community service endeavors are exemplified by her longstanding loyalty and leadership with Veritas, as well as her membership in the Sierra Club and participation on the Polycystic Kidney Disease Foundation Board of Directors. And whereas Amanda's lasting imprint on the Nevada Commission on Ethics will showcase her dedication to integrity and upholding ethics in government, with her most memorable attributes being her sharp analytical mind, clear and concise communication, and interminable professionalism. And therefore be it resolved that the members and staff of the Nevada Commission on Ethics hereby express their extensive gratitude to Commissioner Amanda Yen Esquire for her dedicated service to the state of Nevada and the Constitution of the United States. Any questions or comments on proclamation?
I'll make comments.
Commissioner Wong?
I've had the great pleasure of serving with Commissioner Yen for 6 years, just about now. And my first meeting with her, I was very impressed with her fantastic analytical skills, her grasp of the ethics law. And what I really liked about her is she was always very concise in what she had to say. And like Thorne, she would only speak when she had something to say that was pertinent to what we were talking about. And I really appreciate that. And I also appreciated her because she would stand up for her beliefs and for her values. And she did it in a way that you weren't offended. You appreciated what she had to say. And so Commissioner Yen, I'm really going to miss you on this commission. And we have a huge hole to fill with you leaving this commission. So thank you very much.
Other comments?
I do have something to say. If I can take a minute. Most of you know I don't like wasting time, but I think time is never wasted by words of gratitude and thanks. And so I want to express my sincerest gratitude and thanks to the commission staff and the commission. Executive Director Armstrong, you were overqualified for this job, and I'm happy to say that instead of you bending down to meet the needs of the commission, you've risen the commission to your standards. Commission Counsel Bassett, I said it before when nominating you to that position, that there's no higher compliment that I could give you than to acknowledge how often your opposing counsel attests to your professionalism and your knowledge, something for which all attorneys strive. OEO Harvey, I have to say that one of my crown jewels for my time on the commission was that I had the privilege of assisting in your interview and seeing that you've already exceeded the expectations that I had. Investigator Terry, although not present, I do want to recognize him, and Senior Legal Researcher Hazlitt. I have not worked closely with either of you, but that's because of the exemplary work that you both do. I've never had to ask an unanswered question related to an investigation or look at prior commission case law that was missing, and I very much appreciate that. Finally, Executive Assistant Pedroza, could anyone do anything without you? I don't think so. Thank you for your organization, your hard work, and for bringing me my credit card that time that I left it at the restaurant. Much appreciated. I worked alongside Vice Chair Wallen and Commissioner Lowry, who, while not present, I also want to recognize the longest. And I have the utmost respect for both of you, particularly how prepared you are, your dedication to transparency, following the commission's guiding law, and putting the service to the state above all else. Commissioner Scheer, Chair Scheer, my apologies, Commissioners Olson, Moran, Reynolds, and Langton, we have not had too long to serve together, but the mere fact that you accepted this appointment is a testament to your dedication to the state of Nevada. And I'm hopeful that this commission and whoever the legislature appoints in my place will continue to do its work with the commission's mission to enhance the public's faith and confidence in our government at the forefront of every decision. Thank you for allowing me to serve with you.
Thank you, Commissioner Yan. We appreciate the service that you've given to the commission. You will be missed. Appreciate your comments. We hope the Legislative Commission can find someone at least half as qualified as you are for the position. So we're, I don't know, Ross, whether you've heard anything from them or had any discussions with them. I know that they're that unfortunately you're term limited, so they can't reappoint you, but
No, they, we'd reached out previously and said this thing will happen, and now that the election is completed, we'll reach out again. My understanding is they were targeting to have an appointment at the December Legislative Commission meeting.
great, thank you.
I just wanted to say quickly from a staff perspective, Commissioner Yan, we're definitely going to miss you. It's been a great honor and a pleasure to work for you on this commission. I appreciate how much you've always been very complimentary, how much you always respond, how quickly the questions you ask, which help guide me for how to approach other cases and how to answer questions for other commissioners. It has definitely been a highlight of my time working for the commission to get a chance to know you and to work with you, and you will be greatly missed. I will miss you when I'm sending out opinions and your thoughtful responses and how much you have supported me in this position. And I just want to say how much I appreciate it and how much I will miss you.
I would echo Liz's comment. I'll note that Commissioner Yin is obviously the quickest to reply on all of those jurisdictional emails and is, clear and concise in those. I also had a great time having Commissioner Yin assist me in the interviews for the outreach and education officer. I think that was a great way to bring, commissioner's voice and perspective into that entire process. And, also note that when Commissioner Yin had questions, you really made sure to pay attention because they were sharp, directed questions that really needed to be answered so we could stay on the right path. So, and I also did, in addition to making sure we're on track to fill Commissioner Yin's position, I let the legislature know that if there are any other roles where they're looking for a dedicated and fantastic commissioner or board member, that I kind of tossed Commissioner Yin to them in that way as well, in case there's opportunities for future service, because any board or commission would be lucky to have Commissioner Yin join their team.
May I?
Yes, please.
Commissioner Yan, I know we haven't worked together a long time, but I've heard nothing but good about you, and I was told that if I ever had any kinds of questions that I could contact you for advice as well. So I will miss you, even though we haven't worked that much together. Thank you.
Any other comments? Again, Commissioner Yan, thank you, and you will be missed. We'll move to item number 6, discussion regarding the Commission's jurisdictional recommendation and advisory opinion case process. And turning this over to Executive Director Armstrong for his presentation.
Thank you, Chair. Commission Counsel Bassett and I have been chatting over the last couple of weeks just because our volume has been substantial. And every once in a while, it's good to kind of bring, I think, the nitty-gritty process to the commission, not for a vote or an action, but just for some feedback and the way the commissioners would like to see the process go. So the information included in your packet shows our incoming caseload. I'll note that before fiscal year 19 is when we kind of had a surge. The average of total incoming cases a year for the commission was only 74. So we're more than double that now, and so it's a good time to look at our different processes. So in the handout, you can kind of see our advisory opinion process, and that an advisory opinion request is submitted. In the advisory opinion process, the statute has Liz and I agreeing on jurisdiction. If there is jurisdiction, then we ask for more information and then proceed with the drafting. It goes to the commission for votes. And then an opinion is either published or an abstract, either way. In our process, in that particular process, I would say my experience has been that the commissioners seem to have more questions and have more desire to tweak or modify advisory opinion cases in that particular process. Historically, the commission used to have meetings or hearings on every single advisory opinion. Based on our volume now, that I just don't think that would be feasible. In the complaint process, the big piece where everybody gets involved, the commission is involved at the jurisdiction right at the beginning. Those are all done again by email. You have about a week to respond. And then the vote occurs and we go whichever direction it goes. So the current process for those documents includes emailing all the commissioners the documents. There's generally a summary and an ask for the deadline. We do try to give commissioners that week to vote. Sometimes it doesn't quite, it may be a little bit short based on statutory deadlines. The votes are sent to either the executive director in terms of complaints or the council in terms of advisory opinions. Kind of hand tally the votes and then work on the vote announcement. And so Liz and I are kind of brainstorming, are there different ways the commission would like to see it? I have been in the practice, if we get a big surge of sending out like a list of pending cases, I received some recent feedback that having that list of pending cases is a helpful practice. And so we have some kind of, I think we have some options in terms of the voting process. We can stay the course, do what we're doing. We can adjust the practice a bit so that there's one email a week with all the cases of that week attached, or we can say one day a week we'll send out cases and still do an individual email. And then there's also, we could shift to an online platform where you receive a new notification that there's a new case on, the SharePoint that everyone has access to review. And then there's a process for an electronic vote. And so those are some of the voting process recommendations. I think the other thing that would be helpful for us to get some feedback on is we've done the summary dismissal recommendations when it's clear it's the statute of limitations is run or they're not a public officer. In other cases, we do pretty much a full recommendation when it's a recommendation for dismissal. We could adjust the process and say, look, if it's a recommendation for dismissal, we're just gonna do the bare bones and not do a full analysis. There may be some cases that require that before recommending the dismissal. But those are just some things to think about. And so I don't know if Ms. Bassett has any other comments about that or what the commissioners think. The volume is high. Like I think most people, when they get appointed to a commission, they're like, oh, I get to go to a meeting every once in a while and do some stuff. And then it's like, here's your 18 emails a week with stuff to vote on. So any thoughts on preferred processes would be helpful at this time.
I kind of brought this up to Ross actually, because I was feeling concerned. I felt like I was sending you emails all the time, and that can be, especially since they're not since it's not your regular email, like when you log on, there's just this whole rash of requests, and my requests are these long opinions that I know then you have to read. So just wanted to hear your thoughts on how to make that process easiest for you and most streamlined. What makes sense instead of maybe that's the preference, the way we're doing it, or maybe it would be better one email that you could just go into and know you're hitting all the cases, or the SharePoint, just, some feedback on what would make life better for you guys.
Mr. Langton?
Yes, first of all, I'd like to compliment the executive director and the attorney for the excellent work that I think you are all doing. I personally appreciate the individual emails because that gives me a way to respond to that one. But I especially like and love that little list that came out the other day. And I hope you continue that very, very much. But sometimes I feel like a rubber stamp because you've done such an excellent job, both of you, about that work. But I do read everything to make sure, and every time I have a thought, there it is in writing that you've already written down. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
I agree with Commissioner Langton. I like the individual emails, although I did like the summary that kind of told me, okay, did I miss one of these? I need to go back and find that email. So an occasional, so maybe a weekly summary of what's outstanding might be helpful. But the individual emails where I can, because I may get to one or two of them one day and one or two of them the next day. And that way I can leave the ones I haven't gotten to unread in my inbox. So
Can I ask a question? So SharePoint, how would the voting work with SharePoint?
So we can create a form for voting.
Uh-huh. I
We
think you did that, huh?
we kind of tested it out a little bit. I think you had, Commissioner or Vice Chair Wald, you had an issue where it was like we only one vote per email. You
Yeah.
probably have 5 cases to vote on, so I changed that in there. So that could be a way to do it. I think the other, perhaps especially if I hear folks saying they like the weekly emails, maybe that list is living on a SharePoint link and you click on that and see like basically the live list of cases. That would be an option for that.
And if we use SharePoint, that kind of saves staff some time in the sense that the votes are tallied and it's a more automated process instead of a manual process that you're doing now.
Yeah, that would cut down on hunting down those replies. I mean, we have the case votes, but then we have like all the emails of just the standard day-to-day work, right? And for us, they're all mingled in together. So if we get a training request, fiscal questions or HR questions, those are all in there. But yeah, I think the trickiest thing now is like when we go down and we're like manually just checking, the votes. Then I do the vote announcement list and then gotta like communicate that to Curtis so he can finalize the order so that the votes are right. Like there's just, there's a lot of like, if I get hit by a bus, somebody has to like search through my emails, figure out who voted for what. So that's a downside to the current process.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I think that we should utilize any piece of technology available to streamline our process. And if we could do it on SharePoint, I would personally like to try that just because it's better for staff. And, I tried it out because they did send something out and I tried it out and I gave them feedback on it and stuff. And personally, I think it'll work a lot better. And another thing that, if we keep the same with the emails, I would like to make a suggestion that you only reply to all if you have a comment or you disagree with what's being said. Because I know myself, my email, when we get reply all when somebody's voting, it's just like, oh, did I vote on that one? And I have to plow through a bazillion emails, whereas if I only have to plow through ones that are pertinent to that, I think that would be a good recommendation, that you don't reply all unless you disagree or you have a comment or suggestion.
for questions, I think, as well.
Questions, yeah.
Okay. This is, first of all, I want to say, I think Ross, you guys do an incredible job on that. And you're very organized on. I used to oversee 25 boards and commissions. And now that is doubled with the legislative action, but 13 of those were policy oriented. And so we had to, through the real estate or HOA, one of my favorites. All those were, had a heavy load.
Yeah.
A lot of complaints, a lot of activity. So, I really salute you for, your organization and keeping track of that. And it's very easy to do. I'm not opposed to, I like the current system, and now that I'm used to it, I'm not opposed to SharePoint. I worked with that over the years too. And I think, that may be helpful. But I like that, I have 3 different email accounts. And so I separate up this email account out. and then use that to, use Outlook to be able to do my to-do list and get through that. So, I mean, you can organize it, however you want to be able to do that, but on your side, you do have to kind of go through and hunt and make sure and count votes and that. And then so, from that perspective, I think if we can streamline that process, I think it makes some good sense. But from my standpoint, from what I see, it's very easy to keep track and go through things and get it done. I share Vice Chair Wallen's comments on the, on the volume of email when you email, back for everybody. But, some of it's very clear in there that you can reply to all if that's the case, or directly to you, Ross and or Liz on those. So, I just find it fairly, from my perspective, fairly simple, but from your perspective, if it helps you organize that, I think that would be beneficial.
Mr. Chair.
Stan?
Yeah, I'd like to also say that what we do now, it works both ways. Sometimes it's great and it runs really simple, and it is easy to track for me the way I've set it up. I'm not familiar with SharePoint, and nor am I opposed to it. But I think that, does SharePoint allow you to put in your comments in there before you vote, or do you have to do a separate email? How does that work? If it doesn't allow you to put in comments or questions and all, then I would not support the idea. I do agree with the Vice Chair that we should use technology anywhere we can to streamline the system, but if it doesn't suit our needs, it makes no sense.
Yeah, we could come up with a way, see if somebody had questions, the emailing would probably be the best way to alert everybody about that. There is a way, like if you're just voting and you want to make a comment as you vote, we could put in a comment box so that there's that capability. And then we could alert everyone, like that could be the email out as there is instead of like the reply all, Commissioner Olson has this question and concern before voting yes. And that could be a function of the email.
I kind of like that suggestion, and I have another question for you. So you're talking about what's your vision in when we have a case that we're going to dismiss, that you're going to make it very minimal? What would that be? Because I know that a lot of times when you do the full analysis and everything else, sometimes when I see the case, when I'm just reading the case, the complaint, I think, oh, why are we dismissing this case? And then it's through your analysis that I say, okay, I get it now. So how do you envision that working too?
Yeah, I mean, I think for us, it would be more of a being comfortable with, like potentially going into less detail on the facts. If the complaint alleges open meeting law violations, there's no, and then here's what it says. We don't have that, like we can probably truncate some of that argument down to get it down to like a 2-page recommendation. I don't think it would be as like bare bones as the summary ones where they're not a public officer or but just like, just to make sure that you're comfortable with that approach on the dismissals. There's gonna be those close ones, and I think especially like if it's dismissal with a letter, we'd still do the full like analysis. But just if we can get those dismissal times down.
Okay.
I'd be okay with trying it, but again, I shared Vice Chair Wallen's concern that sometimes I'm not certain when I first read the complaint why it's being dismissed, and I need that analysis to understand that. I also, I think you've seen from some of my suggestions and some of the orders, I think when we dismiss something, we need to tell the public why we're dismissing it. So that can help with our outreach and education is by actually having in our public orders, this is being dismissed because this board is advisory and doesn't actually have any, substantive policymaking authority, or whatever the case may be.
So, do you know where you're going?
Yeah, that gives me gives me a direction and we'll
Really helpful.
work as a team and get
Yeah,
that
if we
going.
can work something out on SharePoint, I think that would be great.
Yeah.
Because it's going to clean up your inbox big time, which I think is important because you get a lot of other emails. I mean, I only get commission emails in that inbox and.
Yeah.
But,
Read all the state of Nevada emails too.
oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I
The
know.
elevator's down and this. But yeah, yeah, no, that discussion, and recommendations, that gives us enough to go back and implement some of those things. To streamline and, it's an open invitation, you know, if there's a process that occurs and you're like, I really hate this process or I like this process, just reach out. We're always open to that feedback. You know, especially as the, you know, commissioners change and the workload changes, it can be helpful to get.
And maybe have something of a one-page piece that goes with screenshots, step-by-step instructions for those
Mhm.
who've not used SharePoint, so they get some training on it, and then maybe even, if necessary, set up a Zoom thing, you know, and any
Right.
commissioner that doesn't understand how to use SharePoint, that they could be trained on it.
Yeah, I think the way we've built the space is like, it could become your, I need to click on the SharePoint as a commissioner. And in this one spot, you can see meeting materials, panel materials, stuff to vote on. Like, we can make it pretty intuitive. So it's almost like your ethics homepage that
Mhm.
gets you all the work you need to do in one spot. So.
Well, I like seeing the meetings material on there because it's a little pain in the neck to download that stuff onto the iPad.
Yeah. Yeah, so that,
Especially the state one.
we will work on, that over the November, December, and then probably launch with the new stuff at the beginning of the calendar year.
This is on only for discussion, so no need a motion on it. Any other comments before we move on?
Thank you all for the feedback.
And we bring this to item number 7, the report by Executive Director on agency status and operations. Possible discussion thereon. And then we have item number 8, which is consideration and approval of the 2025 commission meeting dates. Want to take those two together?
Yeah, we can present those together. So I'll start with just the executive director report. Attached to that is the caseload document, which is the Excel sheet. I'll remind the commissioners that they have a confidential version with non-public information. There's a redacted version attached to the public materials. This shows you the status of cases that we have and where we are. It's a lot of information, but I'll note for me, when I'm looking at our case log to determine if we are timely completing tasks. We only have 2 outstanding cases that were filed in calendar year 2023. One is, you know, pending an outcome of the Lombardo appeal before we move forward on that. And then the other one is currently, the panel has heard it, so we're waiting to hear back if they're gonna agree to the deferral. So for cases filed in calendar year 2023, we only have 2 that are open. There's a handful that are in compliance periods, but there's 2 that are like active and open. And then in my mind, I also think, okay, can we get in a fiscal year, for the fiscal year cases, can those get completed by all completed by the end of the next fiscal year? We're currently in fiscal year 25. We only have 5 active open cases from fiscal year 24. So my takeaway in looking at the case log report is that we are timely getting investigations done and processing cases. There was a time when we'd have stale cases that were around for 2 or 3 years and we don't have those around anymore. So that's the perspective on the case log. I would note that the case logs are as of September 30th, so we do it at a quarter. So it's not this moment in time, but that's where we are in terms of open cases. So we're getting cases processed in a timely manner. Other operational highlights, the associate counsel recruitment has not been successful so far. We've had no applicants since the last meeting. And then before we get to the calendar piece, I'll just skip to the strategic plan. There's still some final things I need to do to get the implementation plan completed and operational, but we're almost there on these four, our four strategic items. And then the budget update, the budget build is proceeding. It's been submitted to the Governor's Finance Office for review. We have a meeting with them tomorrow to kind of present our thoughts and answer clarifying questions as they come in. The actual governor's recommend gets revealed right before the legislative session begins in February. And then so that takes us to the 2025 proposed calendar. I will note that we have our 50th anniversary next year, and so we'll want to be thinking about what to do to commemorate that particular moment. But on the second page of the report, you can see the proposed meeting schedule for 2025. There are 7 meetings, and then there's 5 months where we would have panels only. And then there's a note there, like, due to our statutory timeframes, we may have to at some point, like, call a meeting if someone doesn't waive their 60-day timeframe. But what we found is when we have somebody who does not want to waive and we explain that, oh, will you waive for like 2 weeks so we can get to the next scheduled commission meeting? We haven't had anybody object to that and say, no, I want a special commission meeting right now. So that approach is a little bit different, saying like, well, you could do a limited waiver just to this date, and they seem to appreciate that. So that would be the only item for a vote would be to vote on the proposed meeting schedule. And so I'll have the commissioners discuss that.
Any questions or comments on the proposed meeting schedule, or questions for Executive Director Armstrong on his report?
I just want to go and make a comment about the case law or the number of cases outstanding and stuff. I mean, when you became our executive director, we had a huge backlog. And I want to compliment our executive director and all of staff for doing such a great job to get us caught up. I mean, it was a big concern. I mean, we had cases from 3-4 years back, it seemed. Yeah, and he came in there and started cranking them out. So I just want to compliment staff for doing a great job, and all of you, all staff has contributed to the work. So thank you. And I'm okay with the meeting dates.
Okay. Meetings, and I mentioned before the meeting to Ross that the one meeting date that's difficult for me is January 15th, because I have a hearing scheduled that I have to attend in my other job. So if we could move that one to the 16th, which would be a Thursday, that would work for me. I don't know if that works for the other members. Or if we need to wait and see if you don't have your calendars handy on that one. But other than that, the dates work for me, as far as I know right now. Any other comments?
As far as I know, the dates all work for me too. I think that off twice. I don't know anything about what's that SharePoint, and obviously I don't know how to turn my computer on. But those dates seem to work for me.
Yeah,
Yes.
I'm okay. It's on-
Mr. Chair. Those dates work fine for me too.
Great, thank you, Commissioner Moran. And Commissioner Reynolds, you said everything except for May.
Yeah, I'm out in the first 2 weeks of May. I'm out of the country, so.
Okay.
I did have a question about the your associate counsel with. And so I know I've seen your ads on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Which used to be kind of where we went because we got such poor reaction outside of that, especially for legal counsel. I was also, and I suggested that Ross take a look at, we had very difficulty for the attorney for injured workers trying to find. There's several attorneys both in Las Vegas and Carson that we hired. But we did underhire in those positions. And then when the individual passed the bar, then we moved them into higher classification. But that's it's very difficult as you're experiencing to be able to find people on that. We also sent out, which is kind of, coaching individual, we sent out notices to some of the larger entities around the state departments and to see if they knew of people. And sometimes that was effective, but this is probably one of the more difficult as you're experiencing positions to fill, is because of the A, the salary, and B, just finding people, especially in Northern Nevada.
Yeah, and I follow up on the underfill process. I've used that a lot in the past for position. It's can be tricky with like, hey, if you pass this bar, then you know, if you don't, then you're gone. Or and the I think it is the salary is not competitive. And then Northern Nevada, we have not opened this position up statewide. I was thinking about that this week, like, is it time to do that and see if we could get an applicant and make that work like we have our outreach and education officer outstationed. You know, there's that investigation team of the investigator and myself, like, it'd be nice to be all together, but it may, if it may be time. I was hopeful that after this last bar round and some of the promotions that we've done in social media, like, hey, if you're a new lawyer, come apply to this thing because it's really like an entry level. I don't think it's an entry level job, but it's entry level salary. So you know, that's those are some of the strategies we're looking at now.
How's it compared to an entry level DAG job?
It's equivalent to a DAG.
Okay.
So the easy way to think about it is the associate counsel position is equivalent to a DAG. The commission counsel and the executive director are equivalent to a senior DAG level.
So it's not, we're not gonna get the legislature to raise it unless they raise all the DAG salary.
No, I mean, the governor is going through a process, a reclassification and a compensation study. And so almost, we had a couple meetings. I would anticipate most of our positions titles will change so that they're the same across different agencies. And then I'm hopeful that the compensation study says all of these folks need to be brought up. If that occurs, it will be in the governor's recommended budget. I think there'll be a, you know, kind of a combined packet. But there aren't a lot of details on that, but that may provide us some hope, but wouldn't be effective until July 1st of next year. So it'd be great to get someone before that time.
And where does outreach and education officer Harvey work from? Home, so it's from home.
Yeah, outstationed at home.
Is there the ability to have or to use or borrow on a temporary basis if necessary, office space in the new state building down there?
That is something worth exploring. If there's, I mean, I don't think they've set up like, here's the state co-working space where different people can flow in and out. But there may be some similarly situated, you know, boards or commissions that may have some space that we could look at renting. Or
Yeah, Ross, we did that in BNI because we had such a large, we had, you know, large space area.
Yeah,
And so we did have co-working spaces and we did have different outside departments working within BNI and renting space from us. And that, you know, that included everything, all in for, you know, their phone, computer access, everything. And so, you know, that is done. And I'd be happy to check and see if there's still available space. I know there probably is.
yeah.
But that's one of the things that they did, and it did it on an annual basis.
And I'm not opposed to somebody working from home, but some people would rather not work from home, so.
Right.
I think that would open it up more if we had a space that they could go to if they wanted to.
Okay. That's good. That would be the second piece, is the financial capability to do that.
But I mean, I agree, maybe we need to open it up the position, but I think with the experience we've had in the past, especially hiring a new person for an attorney job, I think they kind of need to be in the office for 6 months at least, just to learn,
Yeah.
because
Makes sense.
I think we've tried that before and it didn't really work out.
Any other thoughts, questions? Do we have a motion to approve the calendar, the dates for the committee meetings for 2025? I would ask that it be amended for January and subject to, I think we can follow on January. Make sure everybody's calendars are okay for whatever date. I'm also available the week prior if that is better. But I think we can decide that one by email.
Yeah.
After this meeting, so if we can just exclude January from the motion and move forward with the others.
Yes, with that exclusion, I'll move to approve.
Thank you. Commissioner Langton moves to approve this scheduled meetings for 2025.
I will second that.
Commissioner Olson seconds. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
I'll abstain.
Okay. Commissioner Yan. Well, you're welcome to attend the meetings. Commissioner Yan abstains, so with that, it passes. Brings us to item number 9, which is our report on outreach and education, possible discussion. Officer Harvey.
Thank you, Chair, and good morning to the commission. So I wanted to just review some of the items that we are working on with regards to outreach and education. Today, starting with outreach, we are in the midst of our post-election outreach. I suppose you could call it a campaign, for lack of better words. On the 12th, yesterday, we released an article on LinkedIn giving newly electeds a step-by-step guide for how to comply with the law, most notably related to acknowledgements and also staying connected with the commission. We're also providing a press release following our meeting today to overview all of our initiatives with regards to post-election outreach for our newly elected officials to engage them as much as possible. And then on the 13th of January, we'll be hosting an online about 45-minute ethics briefing for our newly electeds, as well as presenting at the annual NACO and League of Cities training for newly elected officials. We'll also, of course, be posting regularly on social media in terms of how to request an advisory opinion, making sure elected officials are aware that under the new regulations, they can do so before taking office, which is a great resource to them and a wonderful advantage to pushing for that regulation adjustment. Of course, reminders for acknowledgement filing and reminding them to attend that ethics briefing. We've also connected with newly elected officers on LinkedIn, some on X, and a couple via email who didn't have much of a social media presence, to encourage them to follow along, whether it be on social media or via our newsletter, to stay up to date, make sure they're complying with the law and have the relevant resources to do so, especially around acknowledgement filing periods. And moving on to education, you can see in my report some of our recent trainings, as well as our trainings coming up. A couple of adjustments since this report has come out. The Board of Medical Examiners is being rescheduled to March 7th instead of in December, just based off of their availability. And we're looking at providing 3 live trainings for the Las Vegas Clark County Library District with the hopes of training all 700 of their staff by mid-January pursuant to the statutory agreement, and in combination with online and use of our Nevada Ethics Online platform. So part of our strategic plan, strategic priority we listed is to increase the number of people trained annually for our ethics trainings. Through the process of developing our implementation plan, we decided a measure and a way to assess and accomplish this goal is to conduct and report quarterly training comparisons against prior years to see how we've been doing, and then follow that with an analysis to adjust and report on any changes to the strategic priorities. So I'll present any adjustments or new education initiatives at our meeting in the new year. But a look at this quarter I've been trying to stick to the fiscal year, so this being the second quarter of our fiscal year in comparison to where we were at this time last year and the year prior. We are on track both for people trained as well as live trainings conducted. And you can see this in comparison to how this has tracked for the number of people trained for the entirety of the fiscal year in the chart below. So overall, doing really well in terms of our volume of training and people trained. Of course, has this ebbs and flows with different agencies, requesting training often on every other year basis, depending on the needs of their agency specifically. And then moving on to publications, some things that are coming up soon as part of our strategic implementation planning, as well as ongoing projects within publications to rebrand and improve educational resources, developing new educational resources as we continue to better understand the needs of the diversity of public officers and employees under our jurisdiction. And then we are starting our scheduled monthly review of the manual for improvements and additions beginning this month as well. So after we publish the manual, we set out time each month, starting this month, to take a look at it, see if there's any improvements that can be made, if there's additional chapters or content that would be helpful to our public officers, employees, the public, and broader audiences, to always have that be revisited on a regular basis. And then finally, with regards to our public records requests and requests for information, for the fiscal year so far, we're at a running total of 43. Just for context, for public records requests, we're at a total of 14. Around this time last year, we were at 11. So similar to last year, but we are seeing an increase in both of our public records requests and requests for information as time goes on, which I'm hoping is as a result of increased awareness of the commission and accessibility of our staff and resources. So any questions or comments from the commissioners or staff would be welcome now.
Questions or comments?
Officer Harvey, I really like your piece that you sent out to the newly elected officials. I thought that was very well done, and I think it'll help people. Exactly. And your newsletter, how do you get the emails to send out your newsletter?
Yes, so it's been an iterative process so far. I remind myself we're at, I want to say, close to 1,400 at the moment. So this was some combination of the Nevada Association of Counties published their own directory of county officials. And so that was one place that we started with those. We reached out to the governor's office to solicit the contacts for some of the directors or members of boards and commissions that they had as well, to include them on that list. We've also included the groups of folks that we've done for training. So like all of our Clark County officers and employees that have, I suppose, joined our trainings or participated within their Clark County system, we've incorporated into our listserv, including, and then also we've done the same for the Nevada Gaming Control Board from that training partnership as well. So including them in the listserv. So it's an iterative process, and we're always balancing let's include everybody, and let's make sure we let folks opt into that process. Although it's only a quarterly email, to make sure that's something that folks want that in their inboxes and it would be useful for them.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
With regard to the acknowledgements, so those are provided to, especially for local appointed officials, those are provided by the appointing authority. Typically, is that how the process works?
I'll jump in on that. This is Executive Director Armstrong. The statute requires that clerk of that local county to inform the newly elected and appointed folks of their. There's like some requirements that state HR do it for state officers, and at the local level, it's that clerk's responsibility to provide that information.
Are we making sure they're aware of that when we do training for local governments?
Yeah, we can make sure, we can provide some outreach to the clerks like association. They're usually pretty good, but we have definitely identified some that we're not. Acknowledgements is one of those areas where if we were fully staffed, we have kind of some systems for saying, oh, like, let's check on these acknowledgements and follow up on folks. It is not a violation to, in order for it to be a violation to not turn in your acknowledgement, it has to be willful. And so, you know, in the past, like when we get an incoming complaint, if it's an officer who has to file one, we'll check to see if they have their acknowledgement on file, and if not, they get a warning letter that's like, hey, turn in your thing within 30 days. We had one where there was like, those folks at an airport authority, and so I said, hey, let's just check all the airport authorities. So, but reaching out to the clerks to make sure the clerks know how to do it is key. I think it also allows us to push the online form, because that takes much less staff time when it's the online form. If you remember like when you were appointed to the commission, the boards and commissions lead, I sent you an email that said, here's your stuff, fill this form out. So it was a big step when we got them to like not send the attachment, but to send the link to fill it out online. So, but the outreach to the clerks is a good point. We should do that as well.
Yeah, I think elected officials are on everybody's mind, and so that after the election, they do that, but when people are appointed to appointed boards, I think that sometimes may get missed, so.
Yeah. And there's still some confusion because we'll get a lot of mailed acknowledgements and then their oath of office that's supposed to go to the Secretary of State. So there's still, we can work on that clarity.
Any other questions or comments on the outreach and education report?
No.
Thank you, Officer Harvey, appreciate it.
My pleasure.
That brings us to item 10, Commissioner comments on matters including without limitation identification of future agenda items, upcoming meeting dates and meeting procedures. No action will be taken on this item. Any commissioner comments?
Just happy holidays to everybody.
And we'll move on to item 11, which is public comments. Comment by any member of the public will be limited to 3 minutes. No action will be taken under this agenda item. Do we received any public comment by email to be read into the record?
We have not.
And are there any members of the public on Zoom? There are none here in person. Are there any on Zoom that would like to make public comment?
We have no members of the public on Zoom currently.
Great, thank you. I think in that case, that brings us to the end of our agenda. And do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion by Vice Chair Wallen, second by Commissioner Langton. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Passes unanimously. Again, Commissioner Yen, great to have you on the commission. Best of luck to you going forward.
Thank you. Thank you for all the kind words as well.
Right, bye-bye.
Bye.